Good afternoon, everyone. Just checking to see, Mr. Clerk, do we have quorum yet?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe Ms. Borowicz just joined us, and so with her joining, we do now have quorum. Currently, I did receive regrets from Mr. Phillip, Mr. Tangella, and Councillor Tozo. Happy to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. So, this is the City of Kingston Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee for June 13th, 2024. I'll call the meeting to order. Can I have approval of the agenda, please? Moved by Nikki and by River. All those in favor? Okay, that passes. Can I please have confirmation of the minutes from the April 11th, 2024 meeting, please? Mover and a seconder, River, and a seconder, Ian. All those in favor? Thank you. That passes. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. There are no delegations. There are no briefings. Moving to the items of business. Business item number 1, social housing end of mortgages and end of operating agreements updates. Is there a member from staff that wishes to speak to this? Mr. Grange?
Yes, happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. So the report itself, we wanted to just frame it in a way to the end of mortgage term in itself is such a large undertaking. It's such a change to the sector, the social housing sector, that we wanted to really frame the report in a way to give you the committee and the public a real sense of the history of how we've gotten to the point we're at now. So you'll see the report is structured in a way to give you an idea of how things have been operating for the past 20 to 30 years in the social housing sector, and still continue to in our area, at least for the time being. And now the regulatory changes have come into effect. We are able to work alongside our providers and negotiate new service agreements. So we provided some background within the report and then what those regulatory changes will mean. So as I mentioned, it means that we now have the ability to move away from kind of, as I mentioned this in other meetings, like kind of this archaic funding formula that has been applied to all social housing providers across the whole province, regardless of size or municipality, to a more individualized approach to fund our social housing providers. So the report just kind of outlines what those requirements would look like if we were to, if and when we were to enter into a new service agreement, as well as there is an option for an exit agreement with our providers, which we certainly do not want to entertain, but there are requirements for that as well. We also wanted to mention the work that we've done to date. So we have worked with a consultant, Housing Services Corporation, to do some financial analysis, both on the operating side as well as the capital side of each of our social housing providers, to get a sense of where they will be at where they're at currently and where they'll be at financially when their end of mortgage date comes, and then projecting out 10 years. And in order to support that work too, they recommended that we do an update to our building condition assessments in our social housing portfolio. So we've just secured through a request for proposal through the city, a contractor that will be doing building condition assessments. So an evaluation of all the social housing stock, from landscaping to roofing to the interior of the units, boiler systems, everything, to get a sense of what the capital needs are, so we can use that as part of the negotiations ongoing. We also have listed as an exhibit kind of all the providers and when their dates come to term, as well as that we do have a sense of what a service agreement could look like. We did partner with many service managers across the province into a fund and retain the services of a law firm in Toronto to establish a sample service agreement, which has been shared amongst those providers, or sorry, those service managers, that paid into that initiative. And we have that now, and it's with our legal team, and they're evaluating that. So we have a good sense of what a service agreement will look like. For those providers the few providers that have reached an end of mortgage, we have entered into interim funding agreements just to make sure they remain viable. We don't have a structured framework in place. In the report, we had mentioned that we want to come to, the plan is to come to council in Q4 of this year with a more structured framework on how that will look. And that is somewhat challenging just due to the nature of it's so individualized for provider. But it is very exciting. So this is all exciting news. It's been needed in the sector for many years. We're finally here. We're continuing to educate ourselves with many forums, webinars, sessions that we're attending as staff, as well as sharing those resources out to our housing providers for them to attend as well. So I guess lastly, just the Ontario Not-for-Profit Housing Association is a very strong resource for our social housing providers. And they were just awarded $1 million to support nonprofits in planning for EOM. So they have the ability to submit an application or to get funding from ONFA to support them and kind of those professional services and what that would look like to planning for their board to plan for EOM when they come to the city. And we have those mutual discussions at the table. So I believe I've outlined it all, and hopefully it's not too technical, and it's kind of an overview of what we're looking to accomplish here. And I guess I'll leave it at that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grange. Are there any questions from members of the committee with regards to this business item? Okay. Seeing none, I do have a question for Mr. Grange. You answered half of it. So my question was around the parties where the agreement has already technically expired. So there's an interim funding agreement. Is this interim funding agreement then to last until the council's made their overarching decision about the end of mortgage framework?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Yes, so it's very unique. So the way the funding formula works currently is that there's three main areas. There's your property taxes, your RGI subsidy, and your mortgage. And even though it's this formula that's applied broadly across all service providers or housing providers, in some instances, it'll spit out, when you remove the mortgage, it'll spit out a negative subsidy for them. So instead of them owing us the city money, we zero it out. In other cases, it still provides them with some level of subsidy. So for those that do require a subsidy level at the moment to remain viable, we have budgeted in our annual housing and social services operating budget adequate funding to provide them with kind of just that base level of RGI subsidy and maybe some supports with their property taxes. The idea, even if we weren't to do that, the obligation is still there for them to provide RGI subsidy and the obligations under the Housing Services Act. But to answer your question, yes, the idea is for these interim agreements to be just solely that, to get us through the framework. Due to the nature of the timing of when we have to have budget in for budget approval, those that are coming up in 2025, the framework likely will not be passed at council at that time. So we're working on interim agreements for 2025 with a more fulsome approach for all providers under this new framework to start in 2026.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, are there any members of the public present for this meeting?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are currently no members of the public in the viewing gallery.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next item of business then. We have item number 2, standing update report for June 2024. Is there a staff member who would like to speak to this report?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, Amy Gibson, Manager of Housing and Homelessness, and happy to speak to the standing report. Provided to you is our standing report for June 2024, outlining specific housing programs updates on affordable housing projects, initiatives, and some recent updates that are related to the by names list, social housing, RGI, specific around projects, and some initiatives related to new initiatives with the Kingston YMCA in Carrico. Happy to answer any questions related to the standing report.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gibson. Are there any questions from members of the committee with regards to this business item? There's a lot in it, so I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, seeing none, I do have one question. There is a lot that's going on, obviously, with all the different parts of this report. I'm very happy to see that. Will the numbers for this report be updated in the future to reflect the extended care project that's ongoing?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so currently, when you take a look at the current affordable units that we have in terms of projects, it outlines 10 projects, affordable housing projects that we have underway that do identify 244 new units coming online through those projects. We also have additional projects in the queue that will take us into 2025. Currently, right now, the Queen Mary Road property, where we'll be specifically adding additional transitional units, we're looking at up to 35. So the 35 units would be added to those 244 units. Those will be transitional beds versus some of those other projects that are specific to affordable units, and these would be a percentage of an individual's income, such as their ODSP or OW. So we anticipate being able to make a reflection on exactly those units and the capacity of 309 Queen Mary Road in the near future.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gibson. I see River, do you have a question?
Less of a question, excuse me, and more just a celebration, if I can, of all of the transitional housing. In my lived experience, I've lived in transitional housing, and just want to highlight how important it is. And yeah, that's just wonderful. I'm so happy.
Okay, thank you very much, River. I appreciate that. If there are no other additional questions or comments from members of the committee, seeing none. Okay, moving on to item number 3, update on the potential to extend the Better Homes Kingston's program. Is there a member of staff that would like to speak to this report item?
Yes, and thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I'm Soren Christensen, Project Manager in the Climate Leadership Division. I will just quickly say I'm in the British Wig building and I'm having some connectivity issues. So if I drop off momentarily, I'll rejoin.
Duly noted.
Yes, but happy to give an overview of our report and some additional information that's available in the home energy retrofit landscape right now. So we are reporting to EITP, and Environment, Infrastructure and Transportation Policies Committee, in Q4 2024 of this year with the final program changes and financial considerations for phase 2 of the Better Homes Kingston program. And that would include required loan financing to be provided by the city, details for a fee-for-service model for program cost recovery, and options for continuing incentives to lead to more home energy retrofits. So currently, just to give an overview of the equity considerations we have built into the program, currently we have free service and support for all participants, and we aim to maintain this free service and support for low income with a fee associated for moderate to high income participants in the future. We currently offer incremental disbursements for low-income participants, so everyone can get 30% of their loan financing upfront to help pay for contractor prepayments. But for low-income specifically, we offer up to 75% upfront in 2 disbursements. So you pay 30%, you show a receipt, and then you can get a second disbursement. And then we're also working with the Kingston Frontenac Renovates program team. So essentially, where there is a project that might be replacing a furnace, and typically there would only be funding through that program to replace an old furnace with a new furnace, we are utilizing our energy coaching staff to help tap into additional financing that's available in the marketplace. And currently we've completed one project in collaboration with Kingston Frontenac Renovates, where the individual is able to actually replace a fuel oil furnace with a heat pump, tapping into the fuel oil to heat pump affordability program, which is offered by the federal government. And so that's been a great success, and we are working closely with the team at Kingston Frontenac Renovates. And we are going to be coordinating to receive information at the application stage. So as soon as people are making applications, we can loop them in with our energy coach and ensure that if there are opportunities to get further subsidy and not just go like for like to replace a furnace with a furnace, if we can put a heat pump in or higher efficiency upgrades and get more funding from additional programs, we are going to support to do that. And so that will be an ongoing focus. And then we just looking at some additional considerations that we have related to changes to the program. So we are looking at offering greater upfront payments, so a default of 50% to homeowners of their financing amount for greater contractor deposits, and eliminating the need for a line of credit or other bridge financing arrangements that might be needed, which homeowners may incur additional interest and have to float that, on their individual finances. So trying to eliminate those barriers to participate, and then also looking at, continuing to offer that 75% or even close to 100% of the total cost of the project in a way that allows low-income participants to not have to incur additional costs. We are looking at a more inclusive household income threshold that could be established. So following best practices from other home energy retrofit programs in Canada, and that could be something like a 2-time LICO or low income cutoff threshold. And then we're also going to be conducting some specific marketing that will try and identify and attract homeowners who have a high energy cost burden. So 6% or more of their income is going towards energy costs. We want to target those individuals and help them to save money through home energy retrofits. And then just also to provide a quick update. So I spoke already about the fuel oil to heat pump affordability program that exists right now. That offers $10,000 upfront to homeowners. There's some other updates. So there's the Canada Greener Homes Loan Program that's also operating. That offers $40,000, 0% interest financing, up to 10-year payback. And that's for anyone, no income threshold there. And now there's actually, so the Canada Greener Homes grant program was paused, fully allocated. It's going to come back, and it's going to be called the Canada Greener Homes Affordability Program. And with its return, it will be focused on low to moderate income households, as well as tenants. And this will offer incentives. So there'll be more details to come, but all that to say, there are some really great offerings with incentives coming from the federal government that will be focused on low to moderate income households. So just to wrap up, our program, Better Homes Kingston, is based specifically to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and really to achieve deep impact, deep energy retrofits. And it is doing exactly that. In order to, achieve deep energy retrofits, you need to have a significant capital expenditure. So you need to spend a lot of money to do a deep energy retrofit. And so this is not really possible in many situations for low income households. So evidenced by the relatively low participation from low income households, both in Better Homes Kingston, as well as many other similar programs in the landscape across Ontario. There are numerous cities that have similar programs and experience the exact same thing. And so we see this as an opportunity to utilize our energy coaching services by spreading awareness for low-income focused programs that are entering the market, such as the Greener Homes Affordability Program. But in order to have sustained impact for Better Homes Kingston, as was intended through its design to focus on greenhouse gas emissions reductions, we also need to continue to offer financing and incentives to complete as many projects as possible. So there's the overview, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. It's a really, really great project. Do any members from the committee have questions or comments with regards to this report? Okay, seeing none. I do have a few questions. So this is mostly around uptake for the program. Do we have metrics with regards to low income households that have started this program or are part of it? Do we have any of that information available?
Yes, we do have information on how many low income qualified applicants are participating in the program. I don't have the statistic available right in front of me, but I could certainly get that for you. But it's a fairly small handful of individual projects.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And so then it really seems like it is a question of making sure that people are aware of this in terms of marketing and outreach. And so that's so I'm happy to hear that that's also part of the initiative moving forward, because this is a really good program, and I know there are quite a few people that could take it, or that want to take advantage of something like this. So I'm really happy to hear that that's part of it. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee with regards to this, or looking specifically at the equity piece of this as per the request in the report? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on. There are no motions. Are there any notices of motions? Seeing none. Other business? Nope. No correspondence received. The date of the next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, August 15th, 2024 at 1 p.m. And can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Nikki and seconded by Ian. All right, all those in favor? Thank you very much. The time is 1:21 p.m. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Take care.